just go ahead and dive in. I think the first one that I want to talk about is we haven't heard much this week about it, but it's this constant back and forth over like not just Austin Metcalf, and for those who don't know, Austin Metcalf was the kid in North Texas who was stabbed by another kid at a track meet and killed, and it has turned into this like massive race war, at least on social media, leading to people even calling Austin Metcalf's dad weak for not criticizing black people, but rather criticizing the like I don't know if you call them white supremacists or whoever these people were that were holding rallies, criticizing them. So now he's getting beat up too. And so in my opinion, when you're attacking the victim's father, you're probably on the wrong side of things. But the bigger question is, have you guys noticed a lot more controversial or heated conversations about race relations lately, and particularly on Twitter? Or is that just me?
I mean, I don't know. It might just be you. I mean, it seems like just more par for the course when certain, political things align. This seems to pop up. Some sort of race relation thing happens, and it becomes like they make us fight online a whole bunch. But then there's the BCM podcast, and look at us, guys. We're breaking barriers here. I don't think two white guys and a black guy have ever done a podcast.
Michael, you want to answer the question?
Well, Brad gets uncomfortable on this topic. He was trying to ask you earlier if black people bruise.
That's not what I was. That wasn't if they bruise. Obviously, they bruise. But my question is more like how, like it's got to be a little bit more difficult to tell, right? I would think maybe.
Are we back to the bruising?
that was just setting up my
if you're
my
very
answer.
dark skinned, yes. If you're like my color, no, it's not difficult to see.
How dark are you?
I'm like, I'm dark, but I'm not black. I'm okay. Let me clarify before that gets out of hand. I am black, but like there are people who are very, very blacker than I am. They're much, much deeper shades.
He's no Hakeem Olajuwon. Hakeem Olajuwon's so black that he's blue.
Right.
Hakeem is more like an 8 on a scale of just 10.
Yeah, we had a kid in school who was very dark. I think he was from Nigeria, and we would say he was so black he was purple. I mean, he would say it too. Like, and it was because it was so black that like.
Who is that black model / actress from the 80s? Did like action movies. Grace Jones. She's very black, right?
Yeah. So is Anoke. She's like the new Grace Jones. I don't know if you've seen her.
The new Grace Jones.
Well, I think to respond to your question while you guys go find a 10 out of 10 on the how black are you scale, I think to respond to your question is I think that there was, or at least for me, I'll speak for me. I think that there was some hope that we were done with all this race is paramount stuff and everything is viewed through a racial lens with, Trump's win in November and like getting rid of the DEI stuff and all the woke people kind of being put on the fringes of society a little bit. But there are like two things that I guess I didn't consider post the Trump election. And we've seen it kind of manifest in Israel versus Palestine. That has a racial component. It's two different races, fighting each other. We saw it in the Austin Metcalf versus the Carmelo Anthony thing. We've seen it in the Muslim cities in Texas thing. So there's all these things that have kind of a racial undertone, obviously immigration. So first, I think that people on the right are a little emboldened because of the win, and they're misappropriating that new cultural power that they have into these fights that are clearly have a racial undertone. And then second, I think, man, that tribal instinct that we all have, that us versus them, that shit is strong. And I don't know that you can ever really get rid of that. And when these things come up, it's like millennia of biology built into us, not forces us, but we choose sides. And oftentimes it's the side of the people that have the same color of skin as us. And I think that that's, like I said, millennia of biology and tribalism that we're fighting with there.
So I agree that it is a lot of biology, and the reason I noticed this is I was talking to my friend this week. We do this thing every Monday in the Cleveland unit, a prison here in Houston, and we talked about it's about 90 guys, and there's two like so 90 45 45 45 chairs here, 45 chairs here, and they all are in the same unit, so they talk, they eat together, blah 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 blah. That when they come in and sit down, they naturally just self-segregate. And like you look at
Yeah.
the room, and like by and large, it's white, Spanish, maybe Muslim, black, like just segregated into there. And so it's really interesting. But I don't agree that it's not something we can ever get rid of. Because like if you look back at the '90s and even the early 2001, things changed, I think, against Muslims. But the '90s, race relations in the United States, while not perfect, were not top of conversation all the time. Like people were fine. People like we didn't have this. There was a tweet that was going on, and maybe I am seeing more of this than you guys. I don't know. It could be because of like the things that I pay attention to or follow. But I didn't mean that offensively, Brad. I meant that we all follow different things, and so maybe it's something that I see.
You're gonna have to try a little bit harder to offend me. Come on.
And so there was a tweet that went like viral the other day of a guy saying that the KKK was actually founded to protect white people from all of the freed slaves who were now going to seek retaliation against them, even if they were not involved in slavery. So therefore, the KKK was actually not that bad when it started because it was to protect them from these like crazy people. And like it had I don't even know how many. I mean, it went wildly viral, and people were like, "Yeah, you're so right." Like it seems different to me. It just seems very different to me. People who used to say crazy things used to get shouted down and would stop saying crazy things, but it doesn't seem like that's the case anymore.
Yeah, well, real quick, I just want to respond. OJ, that fell. The support versus the opposition, that fell almost like squarely on racial lines. But Brad, you were going to say something, and that was the 90s.
As did Rodney King, and that was in the 90s too. So yes, I agree. I don't disagree that there were issues that like there were bubble up points, but I don't think it was as constant of a conversation.
Kanye West solved it for us, guys. Kanye West tweeted, "I decided today I'm white." You shake your head, Charles, but what other solution is there than to be transracial? Rachel Dolezal, she tried. Yeah. No, I don't. I mean, Michael, it sounds like what you're saying is that racism, and I mean, I'm going to use that term as lightly as I can, but maybe tribalism is a better word, is ingrained in our DNA. And if, Charles, you agree with that, then I don't know that you can outgrow it. You can't really outgrow your DNA. You can be trained to ignore it, maybe. But, you know, I think it's a common thing, Charles, what you're describing, that in prisons, people will self-segregate into their own tribes. And part of that is for protection, and part of that is, you know, familiarity and culture and all sorts of stuff, right? But people most often marry someone of their own race, right? They most often date people of their own race. It's not, obviously it's not 100%, but that happens a lot. And I think that that's, you know, where there's that's the most free thing that you can do, who you're choosing as a mate. No one is forcing you to do that. And people often choose someone of their own. There's
but that's more because of circumstance.
It's because of circumstance.
Yeah, if you are a white person and you're raised in dead center Newark, New Jersey, and you don't ever leave Newark, New Jersey, the likelihood of you marrying a black woman, or I mean, a Hispanic woman's lesser than a black would be less likely than a black woman. A black woman is much higher. Like you would probably end up marrying a black woman because that's the circumstance that you were in, the people that you're around.
I don't think so. I think that yes, you're going to be more likely, sure, more likely, but it's still probably. I would bet money. I'm not going to look it up, but I would bet money that white people in that situation more often than not marry other white people. And yeah, it's more common than, say, you know, I don't know, fucking the whitest Oklahoma City, right? But it's still
it's pretty diverse.
Oklahoma City.
Yeah, it's like really Oklahoma City's done a lot in the past like 10 years. It's crazy.
Done a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's neither here nor there. We can have
because they have those film subsidies, you know.
And they have a really interesting sales tax, quote unquote, scheme going on too. It's not a scheme in a negative sense.
What are you talking about? what I'm saying is more likely than what you're saying. Yes, they're more like if you're white and you live around a whole bunch of black people, you're more likely to marry a black person. I think is probably true, but I still think the most likely thing for you to happen to you is to marry a white person. I think that, but you're also making a good point. In the 90s, I was thinking about this before the show. In the 90s, that I never thought about like black or white or anything like that. There happened to be a black kid that lived on my street, and it was a pretty white neighborhood, and that was kind of unique, but we didn't not like him. We thought he was cool. His name was Jordan, and I thought surely he's related to Michael Jordan. It was totally fine. I never thought about it. I think what happened, and I think people have pointed this out and done the charts and the graphs and all this stuff, but when Occupy Wall Street was going on and really ramping up, and people were starting to realize that it's the people at the top, the oligarchy, the corporatists that are involved, embedded in the government and paying for special treatment and all that stuff. That's when you started really seeing a kickoff of the word racism in all the media, and people were writing pieces about race. And so now instead of it was top versus bottom, it was black versus white. It's immutable characteristics, and that will never change. So you can't it's just going to be a forever fight if they keep pushing it. I can maybe move to the upper 20% of earners in the United States, but I can never change the fact that I'm white. And so we constantly fighting. So it's actually advantageous to them if they keep us divided, because then we're always fighting each other and never them.
And involved in all of that was the onset of social media. And now we're all have access to information and posting shit that comes into our head in a reactionary way on social media immediately. That didn't exist in the 90s. So I don't know, but I think there's something to what you're asking, Charles, because I've noticed it as well. And I think it's, yes, all the things we're talking about, but also the right kind of one is winning the culture war.
So, okay. Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
No,
go ahead.
no, I mean, and they are, I think, in my opinion, misappropriating their energy towards what they feel is revenge for the past, decade.
I think that's a fair statement. I don't know that this issue can be boiled down to right and left. I think it's interesting when you look at it on Twitter. Yes, it's about political stuff and policy, and then it wraps in race. When I'm on Instagram, the videos I'm seeing now are like people in the streets actively saying the N-word or things like that. You're seeing more of that on Instagram. And then on Facebook, you see it's kind of a different form. It's not really ignorant. It's just making fun. A lot of people making fun of other races, but in jest, and it's not offensive. But I think on all three platforms, I've been seeing an increase of this. The political one being Twitter and being the most prominent because we're spending most